I mean, this is obviously an important visit. He is not just any old head of state. Our huge allegiance that we have with the United States, our kind of biggest ally for many, many years. And it looks as if a fairly lucrative deal has come with him on that big old plane and helicopter.
Yes, and I think that that's a really important point to keep in mind about all of this because, look, I get it. Donald Trump is controversial. He is controversial here in the UK. He is controversial back in the US, everywhere he goes. But I think that the important point is that he also, for better or worse, represents the US at the moment. And this is a crucial relationship for the UK to nurture, I think, both in terms of security and the political relationship and also the economic relationship. And so I think that, to the extent that there is a discussion about trade issues on the state visit or, potential investment opportunities, and especially the potential for US investment into the UK, which the British economy really pretty desperately needs at the moment, take the win.
What does this mean for Donald Trump? Look, Mr. Trump, quite understandably, is not going to do anything that's not in his own interest. I mean, the visuals, the optics of this play very well. I took, as you do in this job, a look around all the obvious American news sites, whether that was print or whether it was online. This is the headline at the moment everywhere. It just looks great, doesn't it? Donald Trump in a carriage being taken around Windsor Castle. Best photo opportunity on the planet.
Yeah, I think one of Donald Trump's flaws as a leader, and it's a serious one, is that he is, prone to or susceptible to flattery. But, in this case, that works to Britain's advantage because there is an opportunity for Britain to offer him the a chance to do a state visit like this and meet with the royal family and allow the king to be a good representative of the country on the world stage, and that ends up working out to both countries' benefits in this instance because it is such an important relationship.
Indeed. It's kind of soon over, of course, and now all the optics of the pageantry and everything we've seen, once that side of it is done, I suppose, the meeting with Keir Starmer, you know how these things work, all of the, they're not going to sit there ironing out the detail. All of that stuff is done by those around them way beforehand. Is there likely, Joseph, do you think, to be any sort of big announcement? I don't know, steel tariffs or something like that? Is there going to be something that comes out of this where we go, wow, we didn't expect that?
I'm not sure I'm hugely optimistic about that. The real problem with the steel tariffs in particular is going to be that so much of the rest of President Trump's tariff agenda is under legal threat in the U.S. because there's a good argument that the courts are crediting that he exceeded his authority with all of those Liberation Day tariffs. And so steel is going to be the one thing that he can tariff, which presidents have done before. So don't be optimistic about that, but do hope for some progress on tech investment issues. And I think that there is room for both sides to reach agreements on that.
We will see. Joseph, great to see you again. Thank you, sir. Joseph Sternberg, Wall Street Journal editorial board. Thank you to him. Rick Gates also with us, Trump's former campaign chairman. Rick, afternoon to you, sir.
Great to see you, Ian. How are you?
Very good. Listen, just at the same point that I made to Joseph there, I mean, the optics of this are fabulous. It looks great. The UK, really know how to put on a bit of pageantry, especially for a moment like this. And I would imagine Mr. Trump loved every moment of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, it's been fantastic to watch. I can sense that the president is just watching his body language, the interaction, absolutely ecstatic at the visit. And look, there is nobody that has so much tradition and the pageantry that the Brits can pull off. And just the historic nature of it being kind of the second trip for a single U.S. president, obviously that in itself making history is going to be very important to President Trump.
Yeah, I was watching it all yesterday unfold, and I just thought about, you often think about the people behind the scenes, and you know a little bit about what this looks like, Rick. I mean, an aeroplane lands, two people get out of it, they walk across the tarmac, they meet the foreign secretary, they jump into a chopper, off they go to another place. It's all rather splendid, it's all seamless. The choreography amazing. Again today, the helicopter arrives in Wimbledon. Behind the scenes, there are hundreds of people at every level going, oh, thank goodness for that. It's worked.
Months of labor, lots of late night calls. Yeah, I don't think anybody understands how much time it takes into preparing for a visit like this. And then you can always plan for what you think you know, but it's always the unknowns that
Yeah.
pop out, during the visit that nobody's expected, nobody planned for. As an example, in this visit, I thought the incredibly gracious gesture by King Charles to allow President Trump to lead the inspection of the guard. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously that was not choreographed, that was not planned. That is something that the king did. Maybe he told a couple of his aides, but those are the things that you look at, and that's what I think the media will focus on in terms of the success of this state visit.
And it's interesting. I know they are within the confines of Windsor Castle, but the security of this you can't really overstate. These are two of the most protected families, if you like, on the planet. That's a massive consideration on something like this.
Well, it's incredible to look at, when you see normally there are dozens of Secret Service agents around the president. And when you watched the carriage ride, other aspects, when he was greeting the king and queen and Prince William and Princess Kate, they you don't see them in the background. And that is an important, I think, note to make in terms of the belief of the president's team and how secure and safe they feel, particularly in an environment right now where obviously the president, with his assassination attempt and then recently Charlie Kirk's assassination. Yeah, it's very intimidating times with that regard. But watching this unfold has been fantastic to see that these two countries can go beyond that type of political violence.
Yeah, indeed. Tomorrow, of course, it gets a little more political because Starmer and the president meet. There's going to be the usual Q&A from the press. Look, we could sit here today, Rick, and we could write it for them. We know the questions that are going to come up, and certainly, they've both had a bit of a turbulent couple of weeks as leaders. And interestingly, in a kind of move you couldn't make up, from one side of the Atlantic to the other, a lot of that turbulence is over one man called Jeffrey Epstein. There's going to be a journalist that's going to raise this tomorrow, right?
Oh, no question. They'll try to dig into it a little bit. I mean, it was interesting earlier, a lot of the focus on Epstein has shifted over to your side of the pond, primarily because of Prince Andrew and then now Lord Mendelsohn and his sacking very recently. That's kind of focused the spotlight on you. It's still an issue here in the U.S. I think it will be an issue. But at the end of the day, I give the Brits a lot of credit. They've learned a lot about President Trump and the way he operates by putting on all this pageantry and tradition today, and then going into those difficult subjects tomorrow of not just trade and tariff negotiations, but also Gaza, Ukraine, and some of the other issues that they will be talking about. That's certainly going to be a test for your prime minister and what he's able to achieve, and noting his decreasing and declining popularity right now,
right,
from a whole variety of issues. It'll be interesting to see what he can cobble away as a win.
Yeah, I was about, our prime minister is about as popular as measles right now, and it's kind of one of those strange situations. Mr. Trump is always very polite to Keir Starmer. He talks about, he concedes, look, the guy's a bit more of a liberal than me. However, I like him. Do you think when the cameras switch off, Trump is quite so flattering?
Absolutely. What you see is what you get with Donald Trump. He doesn't say one thing and then do another behind the scenes. He genuinely likes to be in that environment where he can get to know you. That's how he sizes people up. It's not through a lot of briefing notes that aides prepare, anything of that. It is one-on-one that Donald Trump connects with you. He understands you as a person and will determine, in his judgment, whether or not you're somebody that he can work with or not. And so I think given the track record of your prime minister, and certainly during our election in 2024, and taking some, I think, egregious steps that a world leader wouldn't take in terms to offending another potential president, in this case when Donald Trump was elected, yeah, there was some damage control to do on Keir Starmer's side to repair that relationship. I think this will obviously be a good notch in that cap to continue that relationship building.
Yeah, just looking at some of those images, by the way, just a final point, Rick, and I kind of know the answer, but it's worth asking. When you look at all the various people around Windsor Castle dressed in the various uniforms, I hope the average American doesn't think that we all dress like that every day.
They certainly don't, but we certainly like to see it because it's not anything that we have in our country, and it's those traditions and celebrations that you're able to pull off in England that make it just so stunning to watch. And I'll be curious to see how many Americans watched it this morning, but I can tell you a great deal did. If nothing else, it takes a lot of the focus off of our politics here and puts it back on you, but it is certainly stunning to watch.